Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Namaduhu wa nasalli ala Rasulil Kareem. Viewers, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This video is about verses 1 and 2 of Surah Al-Hijr, which is chapter 15 of the Quran. I'll first read the translation of these verses and then go to the translation by the Ahmedi Qadiani translators. Verse 1, Alif Lam Ra. These are the verses of the book and a clear Quran. Notice here the letters, the Arabic letters Alif Lam Ra. There is no translation. There's some surahs of the Quran, some chapters start with Arabic letters, but there is no translation of that, so the translators just write the letters the way they are in the Quran. So if the Quran says Alif Lam Ra, they will say Alif Lam Ra in English, and of course there is no meaning, that only Allah knows the real meaning of these. So the translator has to stick to that. This is the way all translations are. For verse 2, the translation of verse 2 is, perhaps those who disbelieve will wish they had been Muslims. So the Quran uses the word Muslimin. But notice here, the Quran is very specific. It's saying Muslimin, and the proper translation of this verse is that the unbelievers or disbelievers would wish, that is on the Day of Judgment, that they had been Muslims. Compare this translation with the translation by Muhammad Zafarullah Khan, the Qadiani, the Ahmedi translator of the Quran. In his translation, Alif Lam Ra is not there, so instead of saying Alif Lam Ra, he is writing in English, I am Allah, the all-seeing. Now there is no basis for that. Where did he get that from? The Quran is saying Alif Lam Ra, and the translator has to translate that as Alif Lam Ra. And he's writing in the translation, I am Allah, the all-seeing. So people who are reading this translation will not know what Allah is saying. This is very important. Whatever Allah is saying, that has to be communicated. That's the proper communication of the Quran. Now this is his translation of verse 2. It's saying, verse 1, it's saying, these are verses of the perfect book and of the perspicuous Quran. Those who reject it would often wish that they had been its followers. So he has omitted the word Muslim. And you can see from all the previous videos on this subject that the Ahmedi Qadiani translators do not like to use the word Muslim. Whenever the Quran is using the word Muslim, they take that out and put something else instead. So those people who are reading these translations should know that there appears to be obviously a bias against using the word Muslim, which is not the accurate translation of the Quran. Muhammad Asad is doing the same thing in his translation. In his translation, he's saying in verse 1, he's saying Alif Lam Ra. So he has mentioned, he's not translated that. He's saying Alif Lam Ra without writing any translation, because there is no translation for that. These are verses of revelation, of a discourse, clear in itself and clearly showing the truth. And it will come to pass that those who are now bent upon denying the truth will wish that they had surrendered themselves to God in this lifetime. He has not mentioned the word Muslim in the translation. Just imagine a person who is not a Muslim, like a Christian or a Jew. He will not understand, he will not know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God Almighty, is specifically saying that they would wish that they had been Muslims. So they are not getting the accurate message of the Quran. They are getting a message which could be confusing or misleading. So using words that are not in the Quran or changing the message of the Quran is not the right way to translate the Quran. The viewers have to be very careful that if they don't know how to read the Arabic, if they were not able to read the Arabic and they're just reading the English translation, they would not know that Allah is mentioning the word or specifying Muslims, that these people would wish they had been Muslims. And Muslims are people who are the followers of the religion called Islam. The religion of other people is different. So if you ask a Christian, are you a Muslim? He'll say no. You ask a Jew, are you a Muslim? He'll say no. And same thing about the others. But if you're reading these translations by the Ahmedi translators, you will not get that impression that the Quran is specifically talking about people who would wish they had been Muslims. So translators have this responsibility to make sure that they are accurately translating the Quran and not putting their own ideas or not putting their own understanding into the Quran, which can distort the message of the Quran. Wa akhirat dawana in alhamdulillah rabbil alameen.